Several ways writers fail to ask for help. Some people suffer from superhero syndrome, could be male or female. They don't want to ask anyone for help. They want to do it themselves. They don't need, no, I've got this. I don't need help. But I know you've said that it's crucial for writers to reach out. How so?
That, to me, is the key between working and not working. Like, you could write the greatest script in the world. If you don't have the courage and the belief to send it out there, nothing will happen. So I think there's actually a book, what is it, Ask and You'll Receive, or just, and I think the idea is if you don't ask, you will never know. If you don't have a clear goal in mind that you are taking actions toward on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, a yearly basis, then the goal is not going to happen. So I think by moving through the fear, and I think the fear is well-founded if the writing isn't there. If the writing isn't in the strongest place possible, I do believe that when writers are fearful of asking, it's because they know the writing isn't there yet. And so I think it's really trusting that the writing is there, or at least enough of the voice is coming through to make an impact, and trusting and believing in that so that you can take the action with confidence, knowing that you're not going to embarrass yourself, and also knowing the biggest thing about asking is the worst they can say is no. So what? So what? You move on.
Let's suppose a writer is sending out their material.
Right.
But other than that, are there any other things they should be doing to ask for help? Whether it's feedback, whether it's taking classes.
I'm definitely of the belief, when I look at my writers that have had the greatest success, it has been a combination of learning. And I am always trying to master how I teach and how different platforms have different outcomes. So whether it's a big event at a screenwriting conference, whether it is an individual class, whether it's a 10-week teleseminar, or whether it's one-on-one consults, it's really recognizing how do you learn in the strongest way possible. And I talk with writers about that all the time. I've had my greatest success with writers who take my 10-week teleseminar and then do one-on-one consults. And the reason for this is they get the story instruction so that they understand how I see story and what I believe in the system that I've developed that will take them to the next level. And then when they do the one-on-one consults, they have a very strong knowledge of my terminology. And writers who've read my books and then do the one-on-one consults, then you have a stronger opportunity to get the outcome that you want. So I think any story consultant that you're going to work with, I definitely believe, do your research. See the videos that they've produced, read the books that they've written, go to their classes, know their philosophy, and know if it aligns with you and what you want.
How can you tell if a writer is not growing? I mean, a lot of the people that come to you fairly self-aware, or maybe not. Maybe they're really good at writing a story, but the self-awareness isn't there, or maybe I'm wrong?
No, you're not wrong. There definitely are writers that I work with where the growth isn't happening as quickly as it could. And I think that comes down to the emotional block. That comes down to they're not doing the work. They're hearing the notes. They're loosely taking the notes. They're not going beyond the note. And they're not open to really learn the process. And that really comes down to the writer and why they're motivated and understanding their own why. Like that's another thing I work with writers on is what is your why for wanting to be a working writer? And what is the worst that can happen if you don't achieve the goal? And how do you utilize that as fuel so that you will achieve the goal?
Interesting. So the worst absolute thing, they write it down and they kind of work from that point on.
Mm-hmm.
What do you find is the most common reason?
Well, I
the worst
think,
thing?
you know, I'll never forget, like at the beginning of my consulting, probably 7 or 8 years ago, a writer came to me and I understood, and we had worked on a few scripts together, and he was a professor at a major college, and he had a wife and a child, and he said, I need you to tell me the truth. Is this a pipe dream? Should I be spending my time on this, or should I be doing something else? And my response to that was only you can answer that question. And the fact that you're asking it, you have to think about. And I believe that. I can tell a writer where they're at in the process. I can tell a writer, out of all the scripts I've read, this is where you're at. And they can either utilize that to move forward, or they can fall victim to that. And that's what makes the difference between a writer that succeeds and one that doesn't. The thing writers have to understand more than anything else is everything that happens to them rejection-wise is only going to happen further in their career. So the more they adjust to bouncing off rejection and using it to move forward instead of falling victim to it, the better their chances of success. Like I look at the writer, I'm always looking at, because I worked with countless executive producers, and the thought certainly could be, oh, now that they're at this level and they have an overall deal and they have a show that just got huge ratings and they'll be happy. And what I've found is it's this ongoing hunger and thirst that will never truly be fulfilled. And it's accepting that. And it's utilizing that. And it's knowing that that's what drives the writer. Like, I look at writers in this business constantly who will have great careers and then completely disappear. And you won't hear from them for a long, long time. And many years later, they'll create their own show. And I'll go, okay, they were living life. And now they have more to say. And I want to see what they have to say. So I think it is knowing the life process. I've also had writers come to me who will say, Jen, I can't deal with this lifestyle because I'll work for a year and a half and then I won't work for a year. And then I'll maybe work for a year again and then I won't work for 2 years. Like, what is this? And all I can say to that is you have to always be writing. The working writer's biggest mistake is they stop writing. And when you stop writing because you're on staff for 5 years, so that when you're suddenly not staffed anymore and you don't have 3 new pilots to take out, then you don't have anything to show that what has happened to your writing over that 5 years that you've been on staff.